So, this happened when I was 11 years old, in the 6th grade. One day, I was in my 6th period, which is gym. We had to run laps, and there was this one spot where we'd make a turn by a big fence. On the other side was a 30-year-old guy waving, with a wired grin, but I couldn't tell who he was waving at, so I just kept running. When gym was over, I packed up and got ready to leave to go home. When I went to the front gate, I exited, and I saw the same guy. But this time, he wasn't grinning at me anymore. He was smiling. I started this big walk because I was getting a little freaked out. After I got away, I turned back and I did not see him, so I was relieved at the time. When I was walking, a blue car pulled up next to me and rolled its window down a little bit. I couldn't see the face of the guy at all, but I heard his voice. He said that I look like a nice kid and I'm smart. I just smiled, and I said thank you, and then he said my full name. I was shocked, and I asked him, "How do you know my name?" Then he rolled the window all the way down. It was the same creepy guy with the same creepy smile. I ran, and turned back and the car was still there. I was only 5 minutes away from my house, so I just kept running. After I made it to my house, I was sweating, my hands were shaking. I locked all my windows and doors. I was tired, so I went to sleep in my bed. When I woke up, it was 11:32 p.m. I was thirsty and I wanted to get some cold water. So I got up to go get the cold water, but by the time I got to the fridge to get the cold water, I heard a knock. I looked out the window, and what I saw shocked me. It was the same smiling guy, but there was something in his hands. I couldn't see because the outside lights were off, but I thought I was going to faint. I ran to my mom and dad's room and tried to open it, but it was locked, so I banged loudly. Of course they got mad at me for waking them up, but I told them there was a creepy guy outside our house. So my dad went to go check it out. I stayed with my mom. When my dad got back, he said he saw nothing, and then we all heard a sound. My dad chased the sound while my mom called the police. Then I heard a scream. When the police arrived, my dad was holding the man down. They got a kitchen knife, and they were right by the broken window, which caused a loud sound. The police arrested him. After 2 days, the police gave information to my dad about what happened. So my dad told me the guy had been stalking me every time I walked from home to school, and he watched me through my window. I tried to tell my friends about what happened, but they didn't believe me. I'm 14 years old now, and I wonder, what would have happened if I kept sleeping, and I had not told my dad? Sorry for any errors in this or lack of detail. I tried to keep this short enough that it wasn't a novel. I don't remember a lot of it because I tried to forget all that happened, but I'm trying my best to remember it all. I'm a 13-year-old female, and this was only a few months ago when this happened. I was on a hockey trip with the rest of my family. I don't play, but my siblings do. I'm generally a quiet person. I have social anxiety and don't react well to situations with people complimenting me or anything. My family just pulled into a rest stop I was already familiar with. I was walking in to get a drink with my little sister, who was 9. When she ran ahead of me, I didn't think much of it, but I wish she had stayed by my side because not even a few seconds later, a Caucasian man looked to be in his mid-40s like this one at me. I instantly jumped back because I was right next to the car, which was a red 4-door sedan. He was telling me how pretty I was and I was shopping to his car. Being the unsocial person I am, I walked away with no reply. I ran out to meet my little sister. I'm pretty close to her, so I laughed about what just happened and told her. We didn't think much of it, and left as soon as we came in. They made my crude gestures at me as I walked back to my other siblings. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. My brother is pretty intimidating and 16, while my other sister is 15 and not intimidating. They both play hockey, and they're both stronger than me. My family drove off when we started to go to the hotel that we were staying at. It was an hour or two away, so after a while we had another rest stop, so me and my siblings could stretch. I had already forgotten about the encounter with the man, until I noticed his car pulling, the red four-door sedan. I didn't pay that much attention to it at first until I walked to the restroom area. The man followed me in and just sat on a bench, like he was waiting for someone. Wanting to avoid eye contact or talking, I put my little sister next to me. We started talking about video games. I waited until she was done and to walk out, but my mom walked in and told me that I had to go back to the car. I always avoid talking to strangers, and I get really nervous if someone even says hi to me, so I avoid any contact with any people. As I was walking back out, the man followed me. He was around the same height as me. I'm 5'8". He walked right next to me and whispered in my ear, something along the lines of, "You would look good tied up to my bed." I don't completely remember what he said, but I was all just tensed up. I ran for my car, jumping into the back seat. I was scared now. But because I was an idiot, I only texted my friends about it. She told me it was just some random creep and not to worry about it. I did as she said, and tried to forget about it. And I thought that was just it for the encounters. Once my family got to our hotel, we only checked in and went to the ice rink. We took longer than we thought we would, so we had to go to the ice rink immediately. I began to forget about the man again. The second period, and I was sitting outside with the actual rink with my sister. I don't bother watching, at least not until now. My sister and I were playing some multiplayer games when the man sat right next to me. And he asked me what I was playing. I got extremely uncomfortable and moved away, waiting for him to move closer. He began asking me if I had a boyfriend, and I put into my ear to pretend I was deaf. It was a pretty stupid plan looking back, but I had a plan if he believed it. I don't know much sign language, but I know enough to pass the lie. Sadly, he didn't buy it, and he continued to ask. I stayed silent, ignoring him, until he put his hand on my thigh. I was wearing leggings, so I felt how cold his hand was. I jumped at it, and in turn, he squeezed it. In the game me and my sister were playing, we could message each other stuff in chat. So I quickly looked at her and wrote, asking me if I could go to the BR with you. She looked at me and realized what was going on. She walked over to me and told me that she had to go to use the restroom. We waited in the restroom until the game was over. I didn't see him until the next game, which was the next day. My sister had a fever the day of the game, so I volunteered to stay with her at the hotel. I only really did it to avoid the man. A few minutes later, I knocked at the door. At the time, I thought it was my sister. So, I opened the door, and I assumed it was her again. But I hated what I saw instead. It was the same guy again, with a horrible grin. Before he could say anything, I slammed the door, and decided it was a good time to call the police. I was crying at this point, as I sat against the door and called the police. They arrived shortly after, and the man was arrested. It turned out he had been taking pictures of me this whole trip and been following me this whole time, even when I was swimming with my siblings. From this time on, I don't really walk alone. I hate it. I just really freaking hope I'll never see him again. It was the second scariest thing in my life.